Let's just give the sugar diet the complete benefit of the doubt. Let's say that you can eat as much sugar as you want and effortlessly lose 1 to 5 pounds a week eating Nerds, candy, and Sour Patch Kids. Let's also give it the benefit of the doubt in suggesting that from a longevity standpoint, there is no ill effect, no recourse, no adverse response downstream. Would I do the sugar diet in that setting? And the answer is still no, and here's why. This isn't really a question per se. I've actually just been inundated with questions lately around the sugar diet. So the sugar diet, for whatever reason, is super popular right now. I mentioned it on one of the prior work podcasts that Greg and I host together, and a lot of people in the comments and engagement on that, and it's very interesting. So the sugar diet is being promoted by several big names in the health and nutrition space. And I don't have anything bad to say about any of those guys. I mean, to each their own. I'm all for experimentation, doing what works for you, rock and roll. You know, Mark Bell, for instance, he's a good friend of mine. Like, we use his protein in some of the brick flavors. Like, I like Mark Bell. I've worked out with him. I've had him on the podcast. He's had me on his podcast. Like, I got nothing but respect for Mark Bell. And a lot of people are just negative in this space. Like, they're ganging up on people. I don't like seeing that. It seems as though the sugar diet is gaining prominence in the, carnivore community. There have been some studies that suggest that if you are a carnivore for a significant period of time, it actually impairs insulin sensitivity. So some of these advocates for the sugar diet are suggesting that if you eat a lot of sugar, it actually improves insulin sensitivity. It ramps up your metabolic rate, increases your expenditure, fills you up, and provides just limitless energy. These are some of the claims being put out around advocates of the sugar diet. When you look into what they are suggesting or advocating for, promoting as far as things to consume, it's primarily, straight up sugar, like really, really high glycemic fruits, syrups, candies, high fructose corn syrup, things that are pretty much just pure sugar, fructose, glucose, sucrose, all the sugars. Very minimal dietary fat, incredibly lean sources of protein. And then there's been some debate as to what they recommend as far as, vegetables and starches go. So when you look at that from face value, high level, 30,000 foot view, it looks like it is the complete opposite of a ketogenic or carnivore diet. And it pretty much is from that regard. So can't really argue that. Everybody wants to lose body fat. Everybody wants to get leaner. Everybody wants to eat whatever they want and look great naked. All right. Who doesn't want that? Advocates for the sugar diet are suggesting that that is the best way to do it because, again, they're suggesting it increases caloric expenditure while allowing yourself to eat pretty much limitless sugars. I don't even think they're advocating tracking the caloric intake of those sugars. I don't even think that's part of the discussion. I think they're just recommending incredibly sugary foods. They're also promoting something lately called sugar fasts, in which you only consume sugar for sometimes multiple days at a time in the complete absence of proteins or dietary fats in their totality, which is an interesting one to me. So I have played around with carbohydrate backloading in my pre-keto days. Carbohydrate backloading, for those of you that do not know, is basically eating a bunch of high glycemic index carbs right before going to bed. So I did something similar to that back then. It wasn't called the sugar diet at the time. I also, before falling into the ketogenic lifestyle, was doing a traditional bro diet, or if it fits your macros, flexible dieting approach. Flexible dieting, if it fits your macros, is, known for Pop-Tarts. Now, people in that space don't like that it's known for Pop-Tarts, but that is oftentimes what people think of when they think of flexible dieting. Eat Pop-Tarts and get shredded. And for me, we all have a psychological relationship with food, whether it's good or bad. We all have a psychological relationship with food. Some people are moderators, some people are eliminators. This could be a whole podcast on the psychology of food in and of itself. But that's not what I want to do here. Let's just give the sugar diet the complete benefit of the doubt. Let's say that it does significantly increase metabolic rate. Let's say that you can eat as much sugar as you want and effortlessly lose 1 to 5 pounds a week eating, Nerds candy and Sour Patch Kids. Let's say that is the case, all right? Let's also give it the benefit of the doubt in suggesting that from a longevity standpoint, there is no ill effect, no recourse, no adverse response downstream. That one I'd be very hard-pressed to believe because, I look at my grandmother who is pretty much following the sugar diet. I mean, she doesn't really eat much protein, not near enough for what she needs. And the protein she does eat is typically lean because she doesn't like much dietary fat. And she eats way too many sweets. So my grandmother is pretty much doing the sugar diet. She's starting to show signs of dementia and Alzheimer's. So that's not really a good argument in favor of the sugar diet. But let's put that aside. Let's just assume that in the acute setting, it does ramp up your metabolic rate and that you get leaner, you lose body fat. Okay, there's obviously benefits there physiologically, if that were in fact true. Let's also give it the benefit of the doubt and say that there are no ill effects long-term from a longevity standpoint. Okay, so now we're really giving it all the benefits of the doubt here. Would I do the sugar diet in that setting? And the answer is still no, and here's why. One of my primary reasons for really loving the ketogenic diet, of which I would consider myself ketogenic, not so much carnivore. I'm pretty much carnivore except for, random vegetables on occasion or the keto brick or something like that, but definitely heavily meat-based. One of my big reasons for adopting this as a lifestyle in the first place is that it goes beyond the metabolic impact, it goes beyond the longevity impact, and it actually puts a lot of emphasis on the environment and knowing your local farmer and rancher. And that's something that I'm incredibly passionate about. I take pride in the fact that I source all of my meat from farmers and ranchers that I know personally, and I've gone to their ranch and shook their hand and met them, and I know exactly what that animal's eating, or food that I've harvested myself through hunting or raised myself, on our own property. I take a lot of pride in that because I know that I'm doing right by the animal's welfare. I know that I'm doing right by the environment. I know that I'm doing it right by my local community in dealing directly with these farmers and ranchers and not supporting the commodity beef system and all of the things that it leaves to be desired. So for that reason alone, I would stick with a ketogenic approach because I'm making a bigger impact in my local community and for the livelihood and well-being of the planet and the animals within it. And that may sound too woo-woo for some, but the reality is we vote with our dollar and we all eat food. So the compounding effect of that makes a massive difference over time. And I want to be on the right side of history in knowing that I'm eating nutrient-dense foods that are literally the most nutrient-dense that the planet has to offer, and I'm doing so in a way that respects that animal and pays homage to the farmers and ranchers that raise them correctly. So that, for me, is a massive reason why I'm so in love with this ketogenic carnivore approach as a lifestyle. And I don't think the sugar diet would ever be able to make a more compelling argument, because when you're eating Sour Patch Kids, who's benefiting there? Big food corporations that are focused on improving their margin and producing things with inexpensive, low quality, if you want to call it food ingredients, I guess you could, but I think that's even a stretch. So that's not who I want to vote with my dollar. That's not who I want to support. So again, if we were to give the sugar diet all the benefits of the doubt and say that it has massive upside acutely, metabolically speaking, and no downstream negative side effects, which again, I don't think it does, then I would still go the route of eating foods that are animal-based, sourced from the highest quality sources I can find, and paying it forward towards from an environmental standpoint. So there's that. And then I guess to just round this off, you got to look at diet as a lifestyle. It can't be a diet. Like, diet doesn't even need to be in our vocabulary, really and truly. Like, we are the byproduct of our day-to-day decisions. And when you have this short-sighted approach to anything you do, I just don't really put much stock in it. Like, I want to make decisions that I know are going to compound over my lifetime and pay it forward for those around me and my health and my ability to provide and just be the best version of myself possible. And to me, it makes a lot more sense to focus on, from a food standpoint, eating the highest quality, most nutrient dense, well-sourced foods that I can possibly find. And that's why the ketogenic carnivore approach is the only option that seems to make sense in my mind. So yeah, there's that. And again, I struggled with eating disorders. I struggled with binge eating and purging, as I know a lot of people have. We are creatures of, we are interesting creatures as human beings. We want to really double down on endorphins and dopamine and short-sighted, euphoria. And when you're eating a bunch of, just sweets, you're just illustrating that case perfectly. When you're making decisions in your parenting or in your business or in your career or in your life that are really just fixated on the moment, the here and now, and not the long game approach, like, I have a hard time with that. I like the fact that I've played around with so many different diets. Like, I did the flexible dieting, carb backloading, if it fits your macros, bro diet, all that stuff long before keto. They all had pros and cons, but for me, I've been strict keto now for 10 or 11 years because it's worked. My relationship with food has improved. My performance markers have improved. My health recovery, all that stuff has improved. My biomarkers, my blood work, everything. I became 3.9% body fat, the leanest man on planet Earth at that time. Got my pro card in natural bodybuilding, and continue to get better every single year that passes. I have gotten better since I started the ketogenic diet, and I continue to get better, which makes me excited about what I'll be able to do in the next 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years. I don't think I would have that excitement if I was eating sweet tarts every single day, but that's just me. So maybe more of a psychological than scientific approach to my rebuttal for the sugar diet. And again, I'm not trying to throw any shade to anybody that's doing it. To each their own. Everybody's got to walk their own path in life and figure out what works or doesn't work for them. But I've been just inundated with questions and people requesting a response to all of this hype. So there's my 2 cents on the matter there. Don't look at what you eat as a diet. Look at it as a lifestyle. What kind of lifestyle do you want to live for the remainder of your life? From today to tomorrow to the day you lay your head down and take your last breath. For me, I feel really good about doing what I'm doing with the ketogenic approach. So that's that.